and I'm so excited to welcome Melissa Benoist, author of the Powers series, and Joe Whittemore, author of the Supergirl series, both from Abrams. Let's welcome Joe and Melissa. Hey, everybody. And now a bit about our two wonderful authors today. Joe Whittemore is the author of numerous fantasy and humor novels for kids, including the Silverskin Legacy Trilogy, Me and Mom versus the World, the Confidentially Yours Hexology, Light Music Code, a series novel for girls who code, and the original middle grade adventure series based on the popular CW series Supergirl. Joe is a member of the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators and is part of the Texas Sweethearts and Scoundrels. Sounds intriguing. Melissa Benoist is an American actress best known for her roles in Glee, Whiplash, and the popular CW series Supergirl, in which she plays the titular role. She and her sister Jessica Benoist are the authors of Haven's Secret, the first installment in The Powers, a new middle grade fantasy series about two sisters who must come to terms with their extraordinary powers. Melissa and Joe, let's turn the conversation over to you.
Hey,
Hello.
thank you so much. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm great. Last time we talked, Haven Secret hadn't even come out yet.
You're right.
Now you are officially a published author. Welcome to the club.
Thank you so much. It's a great club to be a part of.
Just so you know, dues are every quarter payable to me, of course. And we don't take cryptocurrency. So, but as a new member of this club, you have now been exposed to two things. One of which is it is just a little bit challenging to turn an idea into a printed book, right?
Just a little bit.
A little bit, because you have the thought, the outlining, the writing, the editing, the rewriting, the submitting, and then you have to go through all that again, and it's a big, very big process. And the second thing is that it is, even if you are an incredibly super awesome person, it is difficult to promote your book to a target market, right? I mean, you can put yourself on social media, and you can tell your family and friends, but that only reaches a certain audience. You also want to be able to reach your actual readers, like the middle grade audience. And who do you think is very helpful with that?
I wonder if it's librarians.
Librarians. And, you know, librarians, we've been talking, or actually I've heard people talking all day with this middle grade magic. And the plain truth is you are the magic, because you're the ones that connect readers with the books they want. And you connect readers with the books they didn't even know they needed. So you guys are awesome. Bravo to you. And I loved the library when I was a kid. An example of how powerful librarians are is there would always be every year, my librarian, Miss Millington, she would have an event where if you read a certain amount of books during the year, you got to do this fun lunch at the end. And every year, of course, I went. And then one year, the school bully was there. And it was so shocking to me because and this wasn't like you read 2 books. It was like you had to read 25 books.
Wow.
Right. And I was like, the librarian got the school bully to read what? And so that is the magic. That is the power librarians have, you know? I mean, Melissa, were you a big library goer when you were a kid?
I definitely was. I was a huge reader as a kid. I still am. But I mean, I, to this day, have a few books that were recommended to me by librarians when I was a child that I cherish so deeply. And it's more than like, the obvious one is like Harry Potter. And I think I read part of the Order of the Phoenix in the library for hours and hours. But The Rainbow Fish, do you remember that book? It's a picture book.
Yeah, it's a picture book. Okay.
It's so beautiful, and the message is so sweet, and the rainbow fish has these like shiny scales that are really pretty to look at. And I had a librarian recommend that book to me when I was a kid, and I still to this day have like a tattered copy, not from the library, of course I didn't take it from the library, but I also was a child who would do like after school activities at the library, at my local library in Colorado, and I won a reading contest there in 1993, and I won a boombox.
Oh my gosh. I got lunch at McDonald's. I feel like
that was pretty cool back then too.
Yeah. Well, and also it was the 80s when trans fats were a big thing and they were delicious.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the one that went out there.
Before we knew what they were doing.
Now, so like for the past 6 years, you've been embodying this larger than life superhero. And I mean, I gotta know, like, what kind of prep work do you do for that? Like, did you run from people's houses, you run to people's houses, rescuing them from burning pot roasts, or heavy weights? Like, what did you have to do to prepare for such a big part?
I mean, in reality, there wasn't much I could do to prepare for what it actually entailed. It was kind of just living through it and, eating the meal as I made it. But physically, yes, I had to, do some exercises and work out with a guy named Kale at first, which I thought was really great. That my trainer's name was Kale, like the veggie. And he was very nice. But more so, I think the most important thing to me, preparation wise, was mentally and emotionally preparing to embody such a role model and such an iconic character who stood for so many things, for so many people for so long. That was really intimidating. So really getting ready to play that role was me kind of trying to wrap my head around that.
Sure. And now that it's over, do you feel like you're taking part of Kara and Supergirl with you? And do you think maybe you also put a little bit of yourself into them?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's inevitable when you play a character for as long as I played Kara and Supergirl. And I was changed immediately in the first season. There were so many challenges I was faced with, not just with the day-to-day work life of, being on a set of a TV show, and one that was so involved for me physically, but also, what she stands for and the motto, hope, help, and compassion for all, and always standing up for what's right. It really bled into who I was, and it really made me a better person and more honest person and more authentic person to who I am. And she, I think also one of the things that I really carried from Supergirl with me was the sense of community and really embracing community and working together for a common goal.
That's awesome. Now, is that all of those are kind of reasons why you feel people are drawn to superheroes in general, is because of that hope and those things that they bring about for people?
I think for Supergirl especially, yes. I mean, you have your Supermans and your Batmans and everyone thinks they're cool and whatever, but I'm so partial to her because Supergirl went through so much pain and so much trauma and so much hardship. Mm-hmm. And she always has this demeanor, this optimism and this willingness to ask for help and to give help and to just immerse herself in her community. And that's so invaluable.
I would think that in those first seasons, your character, Kara, she's having to hide who she really is, which is very tough, like especially for middle schoolers, is because there are things that they want to do which won't be seen as cool. They're not the cool thing, but they might be really good at it, and they don't get to shine the way they should because they're afraid to show those things off.
Exactly. And that was one of the things that we were so adamant about the entire time we were shooting the show, was make sure people know that it's all right to be their true selves.
It's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, now I gotta switch to my next paper. I don't have the little monitor that gives me all the words.
The teleprompter you need.
Thank you. I don't even have that word. I write for a living. And I'm like, the thing with the words, like I should just give grades for a living. But thank you for that. You are definitely an author now because you can do that. Okay, so now you're going to take your passion for storytelling from the screen to the literary world. You're bringing your sister with you, your sister Jessica, and you guys have the first book, Haven's Secret, of the Power Sisters series. Is a middle grade series. And librarians, I promise I'm not giving anything away by telling you this, but basically these two sisters, Ellie and Parker, and they, on their 13th birthday, they're kind of whisked away to a sanctuary known as Haven, where their mother liked to hang out when she was a kid. And they're kind of given a map of sorts that guides them to something super awesome for them. And something I will give away a little bit because I think it was so cool. And I want to talk to you about this, Melissa, but is that on the girls' birthdays, because they're twins, every birthday their mom would posthumously kind of give them an item. And it doesn't, it just seems like a very nice item, but you don't think that it has any sort of meaning other than, oh, here's a birthday gift. And it ends up becoming something special and important for them. So when you and your sister were creating this world, how did you go about the world creation, I guess? Like, did you draw from what you could see around you from Supergirl, or did you just kind of just go into your heads to come up with this world?
It was kind of an amalgamation of a lot of things. Yes, there are elements of Supergirl that I absolutely wanted to incorporate in this. The issues we were talking about before, and embracing your true self. But also, Jessica and I really had a couple values that we wanted to kind of instill in the messaging of this book with these sisters and their relationship. We're both very passionate about mental health and mental health awareness, especially in young people, and don't think that anyone's too young to start talking about it and addressing it. We are both extremely passionate about the environment, and Jessica and I grew up in the Southwest in Colorado and grew up going into the mountains basically every weekend with our grandparents. And so conservation and eco everything is very important to us, and that is a huge element of this world that we really wanted to highlight. And I'm trying to think what else. I mean, those two were the big two kind of starting points. Well, let's tell a story about these young girls and incorporate these values. And I immediately always knew one of them has to be able to talk to animals. And I hope I'm not giving anything away. It's not too much of a spoiler, but it was something that to me is just such wish fulfillment that it had to be in there. Right. We kind of we built the world sort of imagining exactly what kind of powers we would want to have that were involved in nature.
Okay. So your sister, so again, this is not a spoiler, librarians. So your sister, so you would have the ability to talk to animals. Your sister would have the kinetic abilities. That's what
she has more kinetic elemental abilities, like things with geological rocks and weather and things like that. Whereas the other sister is flora and fauna oriented.
Okay. And now, so I'm going to guess, I guess something different last time we talked. I'm going to guess something different this time. So the name's Ellie and Parker. So Melissa and Sarah Jessica Parker? Is that, or is it just like you like those names?
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, it's really close. Melly?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes, those two were kind of the one. We didn't do it on purpose, but
sure you didn't.
We sort of wrote them that way by accident.
That's awesome. And so like sibling, I have an older sister. And so I totally get how sibling relationships can be very, very complicated and nuanced. And because my sister's only 2 years older than me, and like we love each other now, but when we were kids, there's always that competition, right? Of like, why can't you be like your sister? Why aren't you watching what your sister is doing? Why aren't you watching over here? Why did you kick her in the face? That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So did you and your sister the way your sister, or did you have like a perfect angels relationship, or did you and your sister grow up kind of a little bit at odds, and that kind of fed how you're able to write?
Of course we had tension. I don't know a single set of sisters that doesn't. I think it's impossible. And that's another thing that I was trying to think earlier, what we kind of wanted to build off of. And sisterhood, obviously, is something so important and special to us. We also have a younger sister, so I'm actually a middle child, and I'm very much a middle child. I'm truly a middle child.
I'm so sorry.
You know what? I embrace it. But of course, all three of us growing up, there was tension, and there were a lot of arguments and stealing of clothes and screaming and all of that. That's inevitable, but that's also what makes sisterhood so special, is when you girls just work through things differently. And especially between sisters, I'm saying, this process, though, I have to say, Jess and I found it really collaborative. And Jessica, was always writing when we were kids. Would fill, I've said this everywhere, but she would fill those memo lined notebooks, the spiral notebooks, like front to back with stories all the time. She still does it. She's always coming up with new ideas. So I really kind of creatively got to like take the lead from her and just kind of bounce off of the ideas that she was having. And that was really fun.
And so would you guys just, because obviously pandemic, would you guys just talk over the phone or Zoom, or like how often did you get together to kind of hash out?
We didn't get to see each other at all. Okay. So it was only over technology, because she's in the Midwest and I was in Vancouver and then all over in California, and we never got to actually do any of it in person, which is a bummer. And I would have loved to do that. I wonder how that would have worked. Maybe that would have
been, you know, I was like, come off, baby. But that's awesome that you guys were able to collaborate. So, okay, so to go back to that point I mentioned earlier about the gifts every year. So is there something behind that? Like, is that just, you thought it would be kind of cool, or are there's particular gifts have meaning to you? Like, did you get something similar to that when you were growing up?
You know what? I wish I could say that we did. There are special like tokens from national parks and nature, and you know, Rocky Mountain National Park, and we used to go to Moab, Utah a lot when we were kids, that I think hold some significance to Jessica and I, that are almost like relics in our family now. But I don't think we did it knowingly. Maybe I think we just thought it would be a really fun way to seed in some cool gadgets and gizmos for the girls to use, especially ones that we can kind of like teach middle grade readers what they are, like an astrolabe, which I didn't even know what that was before we wrote this book.
Yeah, nobody knows. Well, no, I shouldn't say nobody, you know. But anyway, so we were talking earlier about the environment. You'd mentioned that. Was there a particular point when you were growing up where you started to go, maybe I shouldn't throw this garbage on the street. Maybe it's really important that I take care of this planet?
Always. It was always. And that was in part to our parents and our grandparents. Like I said, we would go with our grandparents all the time into national parks, and that was like the thing our family did. We like never flew anywhere. We would just drive to all the national parks in the country. And it's something I still love to do. But that motto, now I can't think of it.
Take only pictures.
Only leave your foot. Yes. Take only pictures.
I helped you. You helped me. See? Collaboration.
Yes. And I should have that memorized, because that was so ingrained in us. It was so ingrained in us. And we also were taught to have like the utmost respect for wildlife and to not get near them. And it makes me so angry these days when I see people like trying to put their hands and take selfies with animals. And so it was always on my radar. It wasn't until, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And so I was going to say, you think also it's good for kids to
absolutely
taught that at an early age.
Yes. And I think kids nowadays are so much more aware than even we were back then, of what's going on with the planet, and that we should be taking care of it, and that their futures are, on the line with it.
So that is awesome. You and your sister are going to change the world.
We can try.
What you're going to do or do not. There is no try. So wrong franchise. So so Melissa Benoist's book, and Jessica Benoist's sister, not Jessica Benoist. What is Jessica's last name?
Young, but she goes by Benoist Young as well.
Okay. So the Benoist Young Sisters book, Haven Secret, is out right now. You can get it at bookstores. You can also get it at libraries, and librarians that don't have it right now would be a good time to put that in there. And also read my books too. So, and we're going to shoot it back to Mary Beth, who has some closing questions and stuff for us.
Yes, I do. I am sure that the audience is going to want to know what you're working on next, both Joe and Melissa. I mean, your fans are going to want to know what's next for you guys. Joe, why don't you start? And then Melissa, just jump right in.
Sure.
So for me, right now it's top secret, but I'm working on a super secret DC Comics project, and it's gonna be geared more towards a younger audience, so my daughter can enjoy it.
That's great. That sounds exciting. I can't wait to find out what that is. I've got some secret things that are kind of in the mix of hopefully a new TV show in the fall that I'll be shooting. And I started a production company that I am currently trying to get things moving on.
Wow, your own production company. That is awesome. I mean, that's going to be inspiring for everybody listening today. All our female producers out there listening today. While you're on Melissa, I'll ask you, you had mentioned your favorite book as a child was The Rainbow Fish, which, hugely popular. Any other ones that you can think of that you liked? And Joe, I'll ask you the same question. Melissa, any other favorites that you want to share with the audience?
I always loved when I was reading chapter books and moved on to that level of reading. It was always A Wrinkle in Time. And I loved a book called Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. That was a big influence on me. And I am a massive, massive Harry Potter fan.
For me, I had two of them. It was Mary Poppins, Peel Travers' Mary Poppins, except for the part when the old woman would snap off her fingers and feed it to the babies because they were like candy or something. And then Dodie Smith's The 101 Dalmatians, and of course.
Oh, I love that book too.
And it was like, and I wanted talking Dalmatians, but also I wanted Dalmatians mainly.
Me too.
Anything that you're reading now you want to share about? Any adult authors that you are fans of yourselves? Melissa, you're up. You first.
I recently finished the Elena Ferrante series, and I loved it. And I'm also, what did I just finish? Oh gosh, it's already lost me. Go ahead.
I'll
remember.
Reading The Last Quintista, which I think maybe it might have won some award. It is actually a super awesome story, and it has, of course, won awards. But it's basically it's a futuristic sci-fi thing, kind of just Halley's Comet. I don't know why I'm explaining this book to a librarian. I'm sorry.
Explain away. Explain away.
Halley's Comet is finally coming to Earth. Everybody is screwed, and so they're taking people up into space, and it's kind of this girl's family is one of the families, and Quintessa, she's like going to be the last storyteller, and she absorbs, as she's in this cryo sleep, she is charged with absorbing all the stories from Earth into her head. So and so far it's awesome.
Wow, that sounds a little bit The Giver-ish with him being the holder of the stories. A question I always like to ask authors, kind of as we're wrapping up. Let's start with Joe. Is there anything that we haven't had time to talk about today with the Supergirl books being the adaptation from the series? Is there anything you'd like today's audience to know about the Supergirl books that you haven't had a chance to mention? So we'll start with you, Joe, first, and then Melissa will go to you with the powers.
No, I don't think so. I think, I mean, they're awesome. They take place in roughly season 2 of Supergirl, so you kind of have a lot of your favorites. You have, of course, Supergirl, you have Mon-El, you have Winn, you have James Olsen, that kind of stuff. So they're a lot of fun, and there's a lot of humor in them, and I hope you enjoy them.
Now, how do you take Supergirl pretty well established though, and turn them into a print character? Did you have parameters to stay with?
I did, yeah. So whenever I would, all right, and Melissa, I love you. You're the best, but I watched your face so many hours on end.
I'm so sorry.
To get your voice and to get kind of your mannerisms down so I could write how Kara and Supergirl would act. And then when I did all that, I would actually have to, my editor would look at it, and then once my editor approved it, it would go to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers would have to look at it and say whether or not I could keep certain things. So for example, one of the things I put in was Big Belly Burger. And at the time, Big Belly Burger was not a thing.
Wow, you came up with that.
No, I didn't. No, I wish. Oh my gosh, no, it wasn't a thing on your Earth. So they wouldn't let it happen. So I had to take it out of the
I see.
Yeah, it was such a bummer. I was like, aw. So, but yeah, so Warner Brothers, it was a very quick turnaround time because I'd write the story. Warner Brothers would look at it, tell me what I couldn't keep, and then I'd have to go back and redo it and then send it back and forth kind of.
So Melissa, anything you want, we haven't had a chance to talk about today that you'd like our audience to know about the Power series?
About the Powers, I guess I could tell you that we're in the middle of writing the sequel, which is really exciting. And Jessica and I are having so much fun, and there's a lot of new characters, and I just love even more how it's shaping out, and the world's getting even bigger, and that's really exciting.
Now, will we see any more of the characters from book 1?
Yes, absolutely. There are 2 that we won't see, and I won't tell you why, but
Spoiler
obvious. Yes, spoilers, but obviously the twins, Ellie and Parker, will be there and discovering more of their powers, and there are some people from the past that will come back and make a return that are kind of shocking and fun.
Well, that's definitely on my must-read list now.
And I do have one thing I want to say. I realized I should have said at the very beginning. Thank you, School Library Journal, for inviting us here to talk.
Yes.
And thank you, librarians, for all your hard work, especially in this climate and this pandemic, everything that's going on. You guys are working so much harder, and I know it. And like I said, you guys are magic. So thank you so much.
No, and all the librarians here you put just a big smile on the face of all the librarians watching today. So I'm sure everyone really appreciates, being appreciated. All right, well, let's wrap it up. Melissa and Joe, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone in the audience who was listening today. And of course, thanks again to our many sponsors who helped make this event possible. And if you missed anything, please come back at any time in the next 3 months to watch the on-demand recordings. Our exhibit hall is open until 5 p.m. Eastern today. So grab some galleys and chat with the publishers. Thanks again for listening. And bye-bye. Melissa, Joe, thank you.
Bye.
Thank
so
you.
much. Bye.